There is now the last part, part 3 of series 3, concluding my journey in the civil service and my semi-professional career. I hope you can see how both have helped each other's advancement and progression throughout my journeys. And I just equally hope you enjoy the final part to conclude this series. Enjoy.
And 2-1, and winning it with a cracking goal from winger Lionel Best.
And then when I approached them, the initial deal was off the table. That's what happened. That's what life's about, because at the end of the day, you're either on top and you can dictate the terms, or somebody else is. Yeah, and that's another thing that I learned as well. But I went to Croydon. Croydon was in Division 2. I helped them get promoted. I was top goal scorer. And we got promoted into Division 1. They had a bit of money. I went to Croydon with a conservative salary, very similar to what I was at Dulwich, which was nowhere near some of the other boys that they were paying at Croydon. And they were starting to get, because they had ambitions to get into the Premiership, they started to now get a lot of the ex-Dulwich players because of that connection with our coach, who was now the manager. He was bringing in all these boys from Dulwich that now, I know they're big boys. They're getting paid decent money. So again, I had to kind of test the waters by saying, which I really believed, I need a pay rise here now, because we got promoted. I'm top goal scorer. What's going on? Yeah. I did have another sort of a little card under my sleeve, because I was approached by a Kingstonian manager who were in the Premiership, who was keen on me signing for Kingstonian. And I used that to leverage. One thing I would say, there's two different worlds in football. There's the football world in terms of ability, and then there's the business world in terms of money. And they're totally different. And I learned from one guy at Croydon, you've got to learn how to negotiate, Besty. Because for me, it was never about money. Semi-pro football was about getting on the stage, So I was able to test the theory, test the theory, what he was talking about, and believe in myself. And even though for Croydon, he called my bluff, because I wasn't dealing with the manager, I was dealing with the chairman. He called my bluff and said, he don't think I'm going to get the money anywhere else. I just knew that Kingstonian's waiting for me around the corner. So it was really quite satisfying, where I had a conversation with the chairman, shook his hand and said, okay, if you don't, think I'm worth more money, then that's fine. I know your ambition, so am I. I believe in my ability. So that was on a Wednesday night. We trained on a Wednesday night for Croydon. And then on the Saturday night, I was on the substitute line. I was a substitute for a pre-season game against Chelsea. with Gillett being the manager of Chelsea.
He's got something like 96, 97 that time there.
Yeah.
Another, yeah.
Mark Hooch played for Chelsea. I remember a lot of the Kingstonian boys wanted to kick him.
So that would have been like all the Breed, Chuck, like Andy Myers, all them kind of guys there, right? So, yeah.
Look, I can't remember the names, mate, but all I remember, I saw one of my pals from Croydon, and he was a Chelsea fan, so he came to the Kingstonian game. He just saw me on Wednesday, and then he see me now running up and down on the line, warming up for Kingstonian. He said, "Besty, what you doing here?" Huh? And I just started laughing. So that was
So you've been up against some of the best players as well, like in the countries.
I've been up to the we played against. Then let me just quickly finish off. I played after Kingstonian, which was a very short-lived opportunity, because the manager got sacked, and then they got rid of all the players that he brought in. Then I went to Tooting. I went and played for Tooting and Mitchell, as one of their like key players. The manager was over the moon to get me. Then after Tooting Mitcham, again, a lesson to people. You know, you must always stick to your principles. Because we had a decent side at Tooting Mitcham, but for some reason we just couldn't win games and was at the bottom of the league. And it was quite clear we was going to get relegated. So a lot of players were just leaving. And a lot of my pals who was playing for Tooting Mitcham were leaving, but I wouldn't leave. I said to myself, there was something within me that said, you can't leave. Yeah. You got to see out the season all the way to the end. You got to see out the season. So I would give it my all. I would be, you know, I played all the way to the end of the season, and we got relegated. But as soon as we got relegated, the Bromley manager, he gave me a call, and he said, I've been wanting you for the last couple of months, but I didn't want to take you because I knew you was a key player to help prevent the relegation. Yeah. And I know the manager well. I didn't want to disrespect him like that. Yeah. So the lesson for me, when you do the right thing, even though Tooting got relegated to Division 2, Lionel Best got promoted back into the Premier because I went and played for Bromley, which was...
Did you score, where you got relegated, did you score a fair amount of goals that year? Were you performing well?
I did score goals that year. That year. There's a few cutouts of my scrapbook that in the next, or one of the next podcasts, I will show some cutouts. Wicked. But I did score quite a bit of goals in Tooting. Most clubs that I went to, I scored goals. Bromley was the first team that invested in me in centre midfield. That's the first manager who said he can play centre midfield. Obviously, I'd learned the trade by then. My feet were quicker. My awareness was better. My fitness was higher, you know. And now I'm ready to go back in my favoured centre midfield. So he played me as a centre midfield, and I had a lot of energy. Get out and I can get back.
So that's kind of funny. As you got older, you kind of reverted backwards on the football field.
As I got older, I remember it's not just getting older, it's learning how to play the game.
Okay.
Because Dally Jamley played me 3 positions. Right side midfield, left side midfield, or up front, a striker. I'm not an out-and-out striker, but I will score goals. I can score goals with my head. I can score goals with tap-ins, crossing, and getting on the end of crosses.
He's very, very good at
good poacher, but I can also score goals, banging, shooting with both feet, left foot and right foot.
Nice.
But when you say I'm a good poacher, yeah, I was a good poacher, but not a. I know they're out and out poachers. I'm nowhere near that. I'm not a natural poacher, but I can poach goals. So Dally Janley played me those 3 positions where I scored a lot of goals. And I'm not sure what the position is now, but I know about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, about 10 years ago, I was still in the top 20, top goal scorer for Dally Janley.
Oh,
I know I was in the top 20.
It's quite the average.
That was like time has gone so quick. It could be between 10 and 15 years ago. I was still in the top, long time after I stopped playing for that. I was still in the top 20. If you've done the search, you still see me up there. But
if you got sub at Dog Kennel, would you get a good reception?
Well, remember most of the supporters, because I've done a fundraising event. I've done the charity in partnership with Dally Janley. They embraced me. A lot of the people still knew me. I've done that in 2016, and the culture at Dulwich has changed. The whole fan base has changed. Yeah, it's more younger. The yuppies that go and support them, they get more out of it.
I really enjoy the atmosphere down at Dulwich. I go quite a fair bit.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But I've done an event where you had some old supporters the old supporters remember Besty, and some new supporters coming together. I put on a lot of activities for the kids. We played an academy game, big elite side against AFC Wimbledon Academy as a pre game entertainment. And our main event was an old Dulwich side. I dug up all the old boys and we played against the current side at the time, 2016.
Oh, wow.
And it was a fantastic event and activity. And again, I can show, so I've got loads of pictures and things of that we can show on one of the podcasts.
It's cool. It's been yeah, let's do it.
We had one of the players and his wife was just so touched with it because that's the first time her husband and son played on the same side. Because we, obviously the old boys, we needed some young. Yeah, we played against the first team of Dulwich, and it was an opportunity to get some of the youngsters on that were either playing semi-pro football or wanted to be in the shop window as well. So we had a mixture of, and we had Dixon Gill, who I mentioned before. He was the coach at Dulwich and the manager of many teams that I played for. I've been Dixon Gill's player coach for the last couple of teams of my semi-professional career.
Okay.
Including Egham Town and Clapham. And Dixon managed the side for that day. It was a fantastic day. But I'll come back to that because we can talk about a few things about that. But the when I played for Bromley, I had such a great start and was playing centre midfield back in the Premier League. And then what happens? Around about October, I done my ACL.
Oh, no.
So I played for a couple of months at Bromley, and that was just the worst season of my life. I was out the game for 2 years. I was coming to watch matches. I was going to training, not being able to do anything. I had a physio called Andre. He was brilliant. Before we knew it was ACL, Andre was trying to get me back fit. We suspected it was something bad like ACL. I was going around to Andre's house and he'd done a lot of his treatments, and private sort of jobs at his house. He had a field not too out there. It was to take me out there running to try and see if it was strengthening. I had to do a lot of strength work. And then we had to get referred to a specialist that said, you've done your ACL. And then we had to wait the best part of 8 months to get the operation. And then after the operation, Andre was still there helping me through my rehab, you know. So one thing that I'm proud of, after 2 years, I fought my way back. I was a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to Croydon. I had another stint at Croydon. I was looking very, very sharp. Winning tour in Scotland, looking sharp. ACL on my left leg was fine. But what happens when you've been out the game for so long? Your other muscles go to sleep. Mm. So then other things will happen. So then I pulled my thigh, my right thigh muscle, my quad. And then that was a little bit problematic. And now I'm getting impatient. And whereas I was playing regular in the pre-season and at the beginning of the season for Croydon, then I started like getting on the bench because I wasn't 100% fit. And then that frustrated me. And then the same manager that took me to Kingstonian, he was the manager of Crawley. Mm. So I went and played for Crawley Town for a season and a half with that manager. Mm-hmm. And because again, I was having a lot of injury problems that's when my sciatica, I got bad sciatica now, but my very first experience of sciatica, because of me being out the game for so long as well, and it was affecting my calves, was that period.
Really?
You know, it was just crazy. But I was playing some games I wasn't playing. My best experience I must say, Crawley Town has been my best semi-pro team in terms of its professionalism, which is why it's not surprising in the Football League because they always looked like they were a pro club. At our home games, there was quite a few supporters that warranted police being there on horses. That was my first club that they gave you training kit. No other club semi-pro gave you training kit. You just said you wore your own stuff. At Crawley, you had your training kit. You know, it wasn't a surprise. We played Crystal Palace. We played Crystal Palace in a pre-season game, and we beat them 5-1. One of the cutouts that I will show is me coming off the bench, and like I got a goal that game against Palace, and it was a very instrumental time for Koppel, because I think Koppel after that game, it was Koppel resigned after our defeat against us.
So that must have been 98 because Attilio Lombardo took over after that.
Well, I'm glad you know the dates, because that sounds about right in my timetable of my journey. But we beat them 5-1. They had a very strong side that day. And most of the team were first team players. Well, when you play pre-season games, you rarely play 80% of the first team players. If you're a semi-pro team, they normally play a lot of the reserve players, the kids, to have a look at them and all of that. But no, most of the players were first team players, and we beat them. I scored from a corner. I always say big Andy Linegan beat him in the air. Yeah, that was a goal.
Definitely 98. That's where, 98, 99.
But it wasn't that I jumped him. I just nicked in front of him, mate. But I got the goal, and then the headline was, "They saved the best to last."
You must have been happy about it. Andy Linegan was a big centre back for Arsenal back in the day as well, wasn't he? So
absolutely. And for me, it's and just finishing off that journey, because then I went from Crawley to Fisher, and it's funny. Fisher is a team that I always said I played for them as a kid. I wouldn't go there and play for them, but I went back and played for them as an adult because one of my good pals, Hamid Barr, he's a man that he was a quality player, absolutely quality. He was at Crawley for a bit, then he went to Fisher. Not too long after that, he actually went and played a couple of years. He got signed for QPR. Hamid Barr, great player, absolutely great player. But he was the one who said, "Besty, come on, come down here. So I went down there, and I was almost like, because I had a lot of injury problems, but I was almost like super sub, and I kept being in the South London press. I was always in the South London press, and I had a good name anyway. But I just kept scoring goals, coming off the bench and scoring goals. I couldn't play whole games, or the manager won't play me, because I had this little niggly problem with since the ACL. I came back, and it was another 2.5 years that I just had problems with other niggles of my.
So where are you? 32, 33 at this point?
I'm now about 30. Yes, I'm going on 31, 32.
Yeah.
And it's only, and then after Fisher, I wasn't going to play again.
So we're coming into the millennium now, I'm gathering.
Yeah, we are. But actually, after Fisher, I wasn't going to play again. I was going to retire. Then Bromley, and one of the managers at Bromley asked me to come down to help them out because they were struggling against relegation. And I knew him from Crawley as well. And I thought to myself, okay, let me go and give it one last shot down there. And then that's right. I decided to retire because I was now 100% fit. My last tight days at Fisher, my niggles went. My whole niggles went. It was almost like 2.5 years journey that I've been fighting against since I come back with the ACL is gone now. I can run freely. I can do everything freely. And I thought, you know what, now you've got nothing else to prove. Now you can retire. But then Bromley came and asked me to come and play. And then I went and played for a little bit. It didn't work out, so I stopped playing there. But then not too long after that, then I got a call from Dixon. He wanted me to come and be his player coach at Clapton. First Clapton, they were about Division 2 of the Ryman's League. Quite long, man. So I went and done that. And then he left there, or he got sacked towards the end of that year, because we'd done the first of the year. And then he ended up at Egham, and he said, come and be my player coach at Egham Town. But then I went and then I was his player coach at Egham Town, for a little bit. And then that didn't go too well. And I think that's now coming towards... Oh, and then I've done a little stint at Croydon being their coach with my a player that I used to play with, Grant Watts, who also went pro. Grant Watts was a player I met at Dulwich, or was it Croydon? But then he got signed by Crystal Palace, and he'd done a couple of years at Crystal Palace. And then later on, he was asked to be the manager of Croydon, and he asked me if I'd be his coach, number 2. So that's my whole journey. But what I want to say with that, and then you can say with the civil service, is a very similar thing in terms of, I've mentioned about moving up the ladder. I was moving up the ladder from CII. I kind of went from CII, Communication Information Industry, doing a lot of project management stuff as well. I got an introduction into project management. I've done some qualification on project management. It suited me. My mind works in that methodical way. I love project management. So between project management, resource management, was my X factor. And with those things, making life easy for my teams and my seniors, which was giving me a good reputation. But what I was finding is it was harder to get promoted because of that glass ceiling type scenario. And it was hard. I mean, the higher you go, it's harder anyway. But there was something about that glass ceiling that I believe was preventing me from getting to that last level of senior management. Which, when I left the civil service, I was the top end of middle management. And the other way I was able to get there was through resilience, determination, because it was just tough to get there, to break through over those barriers. But I think what I was learning in my journey and some of the experiences that I was going through in my football was helping me in the civil service. And what I was going through in the civil service was helping me, especially resilience-wise, with my journey in football as it was needed. So, yeah, I just want to...
So two quite parallel sort of ways of looking at things in your career in the civil service and in football, and they kind of intertwined into... Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's quite like hearing the whole story of it, sort of thing, like being in the civil service as well as being in football. Would you say that you achieved the heights you wanted to in football?
I think
I've been satisfied with that.
I am proud of my achievements in football and in the civil service. I came in the civil service when at the bottom because I never worked hard enough. The lessons for the young people is you can't take shortcuts.
Yes.
When I was in the civil service, I still saw people come into the civil service. When I'm now 32 or something, 33, getting to the top end of middle management and struggling to break through to that senior management level. And I'm watching people come out of university and coming and getting civil service jobs that were higher than mine, running. That's because they put the effort in beforehand, instantly, in getting their A levels, going to university, and now they've come in bad, and they're coming in at an earlier age than I've come in.
Well, the foundations are correct, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'm proud of my journey. If I could go back to my old self, I would appreciate, and that's one of the reasons why I do the work I do with BiG. One is we do is school work. We do school programs as well, which is hidden curriculum programs, which is aimed at encouraging a more positive attitude to learning. The reason I do programs like that is because of my experience, where there's a lot of people that are not inspired by learning because they need, especially in the academic way that they have to learn. But they have to learn. They have to find a way to learn, because if you don't, you're gonna have to catch up some other time and some other way. And in some cases, you're pushing yourself years behind other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
So one of the things that I do is I do specialist programs, I do other programs, and it's more about growth mindset for me. It's more about helping youngsters find their own way to resolve their own challenges and problems. Sorry, helping them to really recognize what they're strong in and their X factors, and concentrate on your X factors, not ignoring your weaknesses and areas that you need to try to brush up. But I'm a great believer at there's only so much you can do with your weaknesses. There's only so much you can sort of develop in your weaknesses. Your strength is going to be your X factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you make your X factors be more prominent and dominate your situations? That's what I did do in the civil service, which I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
It became quite clear and obvious. There's a lot of people in the civil service that are more sort of connected with written briefing work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they do briefing work, they do writing work. Writing is something I've had to develop over the years. I have to do a lot of writing now in my work. I have to write a lot of funding bids. I get a lot of funding. I've developed that, and it wasn't something that was natural.
Yeah.
But what was natural to me was the other things, such as resource management, finance. I'm very methodical in the way I think, so I can work things out or follow stories to then be able to do things like manage projects very well, put together guidance and help teach people how to do things or coach people how to do things, which I did do. Let me spell out. I've done a lot of that in the civil service. We had a lot of mini coaching sessions on different things, how to use Access database. My last job in the civil service was in the area employment relations, to do with employment law stuff. And one of the biggest projects, which had a lot of high profile with ministers and senior officials, was back in, I'm sure it was 2006,
Mm-hmm.
when the government wanted to cut red tape, ease the financial and administrative burdens on businesses, especially small businesses. Which was the really big, strong political issue around that time. And I got a really good name in that. I became employment relations better regulation champion, all because I found a way to track down, because employment relations got the second highest financial and administrative burdens for small businesses, behind, obviously, HMRC with all the stuff.
Okay.
You know, the next burdens and stuff is to do with employment and employment law, employment relations, what employers have to comply with. So my first job was to track down every single employment law regulation that I used a spreadsheet to do, because the spreadsheets are my thing. You know, I found a way how to customize them, how to cost them, and all of a sudden I'm now got a really good. I'm in a good position where the head of ER, a very senior official, he was reliant on some of the things that I could produce, because if we wasn't doing our job in ER, he will get the full brunt of it.
Yeah.
We were the second person for birth of something. So you can clearly see that I did, and when I left the civil service, I had to speak. I went and spoke to a few senior bosses and senior officials just to get their views on things because of my calling. But because of where I was in the civil service, and I had the best of all worlds. I was working, by then I had finished playing football, And I was working for Crystal Palace Academy at the time that I was still in the civil service. I was working in the school, working for Crystal Palace Academy, and doing a full-time civil service job in the high-profile area. So to me, I could have continued doing those things, but I had more of a calling to get involved in supporting young people. And then I was speaking to a few people to get their advice and guidance.
Mhm.
And even though they did say that you'll be a miss, you have to go and do what you need to do, because we can clearly see they used to see me all the time, leaving, rushing around, changing my clothes, putting on my Palace kit, putting on football kit to go and coach the kids. They knew what I was about, and they knew what my passion was.
Yeah.
That's the,
So I think, we've come to the passage where we're at the juncture of the next podcast will probably have to be, and it'll be the origins of BiG. As you started the people you started it with, you went into detail with a few people like, I don't want to forget his name, is it Vance?
fast.
The individuals and people like that. So we'll tell that story in the next podcast. But how have you found this one, Lionel?
I found it very, very exciting to go back and reminisce on the slides.
You did really well to remember all of that and
Quite
encapsulate.
quite heavy, and I'm hoping it comes across clear to the viewers, and more importantly, why I wanted to kind of bring up both
In tandem.
both things at the same time, because they both had a really strong role to play.
We could have done separate, but it's kind of good that you've done it in tandem so people can see both sides of you. And you know what I mean? Like, rather than just Lionel Best, the footballer, there's the civil servant guy in there that achieved both things. So, it's been very interesting for me sitting here, learning more about you. The football stuff is really exciting. Even in our personal chats, I'm going to have to speak to you a bit more about stuff that I've had. But it's been great, and we will be back next week undoubtedly. I think we might go live after the trial run here, we'll get some interesting debates up in the coming episodes. But this is just a start, bro.
Excellent. I think it's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and well done you as well, as always.
Thank you very much, and everybody, we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching episode 3. The 3 parts are now complete, and want to just thank everybody for watching. Myself and Lionel really appreciate it, and looking forward to future episodes and podcasts as well. We've got a lot upcoming in the new year.